Reporting none. Moving on to officers' reports. I will reserve my report for the new business and open discussion section. Moving on to co-chair, which is Ralph Murphy.
Just want to say Happy New Year, everybody. Thanks for everyone for showing up. And I'll speak again when it comes to UCC stuff.
Moving on to our secretary, Lindsay Pont.
I don't have anything.
Thank you. Moving on to our treasurer, Sandra Johnson.
At the present, we have $7,193.45 in our checking account. I'm not expecting any invoices, and that's all I have for now.
Thank you so much. All right, moving on to the new business. We have a 2023 NCSC UCC conference update. Show of hands who's coming to the conference. Here. Good deal. I see Tammy raising her hand down there. That's it. We put her on 14 committees last night.
14 committees. She's gotta be there.
She's coming, but we won't see her.
There we go. So our conference will be May 3rd through the 5th, 2023 at the lovely Harris Cherokee Casino Resort. And everything will take place in the new tower, which is the Cherokee Tower. If you've ever been to our conference before, we had it in some meeting rooms and things like that, which is part of the older section of the hotel now. Everything will be taking place in the new section in the Cherokee Tower. So if you go to the old section, you have got a very, 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 very long walk over to where everything else is going to be at. Our rooms, our meetings, our vendors, everything's going to be in the same Cherokee Tower. So please don't go to the original entrance. You need to go to the Cherokee Tower when you arrive on site. I'll cover that in Raleigh whenever we get there as well. But please make sure you go to the Cherokee Tower. For patron costs, the cost of the conference will be $100.
Is registration for that open yet?
No, it is not. Patron cost is going to be $125 for all the early registrations, and the late registration cost will be $150. We do not have the vendor cost yet. We're trying to nail down that price, but whenever we can reach out to Cherokee next week and clarify a few things, we'll have that vendor cost, and vendors will be reaching out to you during that time. January 30th, it is our goal to have registration open for that. We'll send out a constant contact with 811's help, let you know that registration is open, and we'll have a bunch of information attached to that constant contact as well. Again, late registration will be April 21st. So if you don't want to hit that late registration charge of $150, you need to register before April 21st. The locate class, we will offer a locate class. That locate class is limited to 30 people. We're going to limit your company to 3 people per that locate class. So if you have 5 people wanting to attend the locate classes, that won't be able to happen. You pick 3 people that you want to attend. Again, the locate class cutoff is 30 people. We have a great locate class set up. It's one that I've sat through before. It's very good, very informational. And it's not just a classroom setting. It'll be back and forth with hands-on activities and everything like that.
And it is not a sales pitch.
It's not a sales pitch. That's the biggest thing. It's a very good locate class. Again, that locate class, whenever you go on for registration, it is on a first sign up, first served basis. So once we've hit that 30 limit, we will remove that from the registration. You won't be able to sign up for that.
Is there a fee for the locate class?
There is no fee for the locate class. If you want to bring a spouse or a guest that can attend our dinner on Thursday night, the dinner and the entertainment portion that we'll offer, the spousal charge or guest charge will be $75. And that just covers the meal for Thursday night. And then late registration for a spouse or guest is $85.
More importantly, it's going to be another golf tournament.
Yes.
Okay, just checking.
Yes, and I'm into that for sure. Hotel cost. On our registration link, there is a way to sign up online, as well as a call-in code, whichever method you prefer. But we will have a call-in code. You make sure you give them that call-in code if you're calling, so you can get the discounted rate for our conference. It is a very generous discounted rate, especially with this hotel's at. Super nice hotel. A couple of us went and previewed it, stayed in it in the new tower. Fantastic. The hotel cost is $110 a night plus a 25 daily resort fee. The daily resort fee includes valet parking and a couple other, use of the pool, use of the gym, whatever. And then plus tax. So it's really affordable, really nice, especially considering where it's at. And we have hotel dates contracted through Tuesday the 2nd to check out on May the 5th, which is that Friday. We do not have any contract extension with them to offer a rate through the weekend. If you want to stay on the weekend, that's your own dime. But I think the rates go up to about $500 a night after that. So, yeah. Moving on to the golf outing. How many people's played the golf course up there at Cherokee? It's a beautiful golf course if you've never been, and if you like playing golf, it'll be at Sequoia National. The golf outing will be $95. That includes transportation, sponsored by Badger. We'll actually have Badger Daylighting has reached out, got us transportation to and from the golf course. That way we can go play golf, enjoy our time at golf, and arrive back safely. Also, lunch will be included. And Lindsey Ponce is working on that now for lunch, lining that up. The golf tournament, in the past, we've had you register and then say who you want to be on your team and everything like that. We're changing things up this year. So what we're going to do is, as the vendors sign up for the golf tournament, one vendor will be put as the first name on the team. Everybody else who registers will go into a blind draw system. Our conference is all about networking, and this is one of the things our team talked about last night. If you're paired up with a bunch of random people, number one, it doesn't allow you to stack your team. So you can wind up, instead of having a bunch of A players, you can wind up with a bunch of Chase Gibsons out there on the golf course. But it's all about fun, right? So I think it's going to provide a good opportunity. It provides a vendor to have an outreach opportunity, makes it more appeasing for our vendors to be able to play. But also, it allows you to talk to somebody you may not have even met before, or you may not have even interacted with at the conference had you not been paired up with that random person. And then I think that is it as far as the update. Anybody have anything they want to add or any questions from the gallery?
Is the golf on Wednesday? Is that the time? Is that the
That's
date,
correct.
rather?
That's correct. Wednesday. We have to be at the golf course at 11:30. And so we're going to organize that ride over somewhere around 10:30, 10:45, somewhere in there. And they'll actually pick us up in front of the Cherokee Tower. So all you have to do is come down with your golf clubs, get on the bus, we'll ride over to the golf course. And then is one trip over and one trip back. So please be sure, if you want to be there on time, and please don't get left over there.
Chase, did you want to talk about the Wanya night for the vendors?
Yes.
Or you want me to talk?
No, I'll move on. Any other questions before I get into the vendors?
We have a bunch of questions that we're gonna be asking Cherokee this week, follow up on. That's why the vendor prices aren't set yet. You guys don't think of anything we haven't thought of, go ahead and chime in.
Would there be a dream cart?
You say Bruce shit?
Drink cart at some point.
Did you say Collier's Engineering will sponsor the drink cart? Is that what you said, Bruce?
Seth senior, he said we're gonna have a drink cart.
Seth, we'll talk to you after this, man. That'd be great.
Hey,
Yeah, we can definitely look into it. Yeah, we can look into it.
we do want to say, all jokes aside, drink responsibly on the golf course because there's been golf cart incidents.
Again, so Sequoia National, if you've never been, it's a true mountain course. It means two things. Number one, if you can't hit them straight, bring a bunch of balls.
Don't go looking for it. Don't stand there.
Yeah.
That's it. Don't go looking for it. Just drop. It's a captain's choice tournament. Choose the best ball and go. Second thing about a mountain course, it is very hilly, lots of up and downs. Like Jason said, we had 2 accidents in the previous conference that we had, where people were not responsible and they flipped their golf carts. And the worst part about it, they just took the golf cart back and left the golf course and didn't say anything to anybody. So we almost weren't allowed to have our golf outing at Sequoia National again because those people didn't own up to it. So please be responsible and treat the golf cart as you would a company vehicle. If there is an accident, let's report that. We'll go from there.
So did you say that we're not allowed to have a golf cart, a drink cart? Or did you?
Oh, no.
Just clarify, I think is what he's saying, clarify.
How about DD?
Yeah.
The golf cart.
No DUIs in a golf cart.
That's it. Any other questions before I move on to the open discussion area? All I had in open discussions, and I kind of wanted to table it out of the conference update. As far as vendors for the conference, Lindsay Ponce, wave your hand. Ronnie Neighbors, wave your hand. Lindsay and Ronnie will be your vendor contact people. If you are a vendor that's here today and you would like some more information about our conference, please feel free to give either one of those ladies your card and they can reach out to you once everything's completed as far as vendor registration. And also all of our previous vendors, we will be reaching out to you as well through the contact information that we have. So if you've been a vendor with us in the past or you'd like to be a vendor, get in touch with either of those ladies. Give us your contact information so we can reach out to you. We're very appreciative of our vendors because we would not be able to have this conference without our vendors. Any vendors have any questions for the conference?
Did confirm, we are gonna then, so Ron, I'll get with you and it'll be Alex Hall and Russell Tate, Russell and Kevin Conlander, they're gonna be doing it.
Okay.
All right, moving on to our report section. Anyone from North Carolina DOT have a report? All right, moving on to North Carolina 811.
All right, I will be more than happy to give a update. Do you want me to ask this?
For the vendor stuff, if they.
Okay. So Lindsay's asking for all you folks that are online, if you are interested in the vendor portion of it, if you will, please put your information in the chat and that you're interested, and we'll be sure to pass that on.
And would you mind also typing mine in there if they want to email me directly?
I certainly will.
Thank you.
All right. All right, folks. Can everyone see the presentation?
Yes.
Good thumbs up. For those that are online, can you see the presentation? All right, I think we've
Yes.
all, okay, perfect. So we all are aware that if you will, please place your information in the chat section so that we'll have documentation that you were present. This is our January 2023 presentation, and please disregard that UCC name because this is a presentation that goes out to all UCCs across the state. We do have our illustrious Louis Panzer, our executive director, on the call. So Louis, I'll just turn this slide over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. And yes, welcome to 2023. It is strange. I'm sure some of us are still typing 2022 into things, but hopefully we'll get over that. We are bracing for more volume. You should too. Last year was, I believe, around 7% up over the year prior. Every indication is that this year is going to include more volume than we've experienced even in the past, and we continue to climb. So anything that you can do internally to prepare for that, whatever your job is, whether you're a locator, equipment, any of those things, we're just saying. And also we would ask that you have some patience as well with that volume, because come March, April, when things really get super hot and heavy, you'll discover that, even with us, there's 4 CSRs training next door. Even with full capacity of CSRs, there can be delays. We ask that you use electronics, methods for creating tickets when you can, and bring in patience. Also want to mention that Northfield is bringing out a product called DigLogix. It's coming soon, and the intention of that is to assist excavators in creating and managing requests. It will not replace STAT or other tools like that, but it's mainly for project planning and that kind of thing. So it's another product that's coming, and we'll have more announcements and probably some demos once it's actually put out there. And I always like to come up with some kind of little something. In this case, this is the 3 P's equal P. I should probably say P cubed or something, but patience is a very critical thing, plus planning, plus the process that you deploy, equals productivity. So you can actually be productive and continue to meet goals and that kind of thing by incorporating these 3 things into your plan here. Now, proper planning, executing on it, and keeping patience with all the other stakeholders that you're working with. That goes so long, so far, and we have plenty of success stories to show that that's the case. So just bear that in mind. I know we've talked about looking in the mirror, ask what you can do for damage prevention in your own sphere. That still carries forward as well. We just want to see everybody go home safe. And we've still got a couple of months of winter here, maybe even, 2.5 months of winter left, but soon enough, the spring will be upon us. So get yourselves ready for that. And I'll turn it back to you, Ms. Ann.
Thank you, Louis. All right. Well, actually, this next slide, we're talking a little bit about our dirt data and reporting of damages. Louis, would you like to elaborate on the root cause of the damage?
Absolutely. So those of you that are following dirt or following the damages by county that we always present as well into here, one of the things that we've stumbled here in North Carolina, frankly, on is making sure that we've captured the root cause. A lot of cases, it affects the quality of the reports of the damages. I think in the past, we've sort of let it default to unknown kind of thing if it was not there in an effort to kind of speed the process, because these are mostly, these are phone conversations with the CSR, and we didn't want the CSRs to have to make too many read between the lines decisions. But we have incorporated the description of the root cause, matched it up to the CGA with the intent of improving our quality here in North Carolina on the damages that we report into the national system. This helps us also understand, what are the things that are considered root causes? Is there a particular section that we need to apply more education efforts to? Is there custom education that needs to be designed? The top one on the one call notification issue, whether there was a notification made or not, and then some of the other subcategories of that, what we would consider to be one call notification. Frankly, I consider some of those to be excavator issues. If they're digging after the expiration, I'm not sure that it's a notification issue, but this is the way that CGA has constructed all this. So we're just really trying to follow suit so that we can match up to the national. But that being said, the 3 major root causes that always show up year after year are failing to notify, excavation practices, and locate practices. These are the 3 major classes of information. One of the things that we're working on this year, as we explore that no notification made, is more about the why. Why is it that someone would choose not to make the call or use an electronic means to notify when they do in other cases? So looking over the data that we've received from the gas companies, and again, greatly appreciate that on behalf of Dominion and Dukes giving us those no-call damage reports. We're really going to dig in and explore that with some surveys to try to understand that better. Because again, the more we know about the reasons why someone would choose not to call, the better we can educate to those particular issues. Do they think it's a depth issue? Do they think maybe they're not going deep, so they don't need to call? Is it a particular type of work that they're doing that they think doesn't fall into this? Is it a frustration that they don't think it's going to get done? I mean, we need to understand more about that particular thing, because it makes up about 25% on the national side of root cause. So we want to really break that down and understand that better. Any questions about root causes? I'll ship it on back to you, Ann.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Louis. As Louis mentioned, just as a reminder, you are required by law to report damages. And once again, when you are connected to the customer service rep, they're going to ask you the cause. All right, so we'll jump into some of our data insights and kind of take a look at where we landed last year. So December, coming in with the last month of the year, we ended up with 171,000 locates compared to 163,000 the year before. But as Louis alluded to, we did end the year with a 7.1% increase compared to 2021. We ended with 2,497,873 tickets for the year. So once again, 7.1%. If we look at 2021, we rounded out at 2,332,000 the year before, 2.1 million in 2020, 2.2 in 2019, 2 million, just a little over 2 million in 2018. And where we hit and broke that 2 million was in 2018. Prior to that, we were 1.9 million in 2017. So as you're seeing, the locate volume is increasing year to year. So it's certainly busy, and I know we're going to talk about a lot of projects, I'm sure, coming up. So let's review some of the transmissions. As we look at our transmission, still we averaged for 2022 an average of 5.4 transmissions per locate. But where we landed for December was 924,404 transmissions compared to the same time in 2021. We were a 2.8% increase, landing at 901,000 in 2021. So where did we finalize for our transmissions for the year? This is where really the rubber meets the road. And this is the cost that is applying to all the members. 13,460,941 transmissions. So all of those transmissions are supported by the members. We are continuing to work very diligent with our members, with their master contractors, with anyone that is placing volume within the system to try and make sure that those locates are accurate, that the transmissions that are being sent over to the members are accurate. So busy.
And to those members, to those members out there, know that your cost here in North Carolina for the receiving of a ticket is right at 50 cents. So it's a 50 cent per transmission when you break it out like that. And I think if you look across the industry, those of you that are, especially like George, who works in multiple states for MetroNet, I think if you look around, you'll see that that's probably one of the lowest prices nationally, certainly in the top 3 or something like that. And we still do that and provide the services that we do. So it's just something to note about the efficiency of what we're running around here.
Thank you, Louis. So moving on, I know we talked a little bit about the damages, and I just highlighted typically our top 2 counties are always Wake and Mecklenburg, and we tend to see those for some reason or another, we tend to see those kind of shift back and forth from month to month. Mecklenburg was at 101 damages reported in December. Wake was 104. But also we do focus in all of those top 10 counties. And I was mentioning to some folks yesterday that I heard a report of where folks are moving into the state of North Carolina, and I thought it was very interesting to find that Wilmington was the #1 on the list of folks moving into North Carolina. Surprisingly, Hickory area was #4. I thought that was very interesting. So, you know, what we typically see as our top 10, you know, we're probably going to start seeing some shift from work, you know, and people moving into those areas. Because typically when you have more folks moving in, there's probably going to be more utility work.
Rural area overall,
Yeah, Catawba County is still fairly rural.
Pitt County.
Oh, Pitt, yes.
Yeah,
And of course-
that's a lot of damage.
Mhm. And, you know, we do have some, a major project going on out there with MetroNet too. So a lot of work being done, a lot of fiber across the state. And I know we'll talk a little bit more in depth into that. So, but that does give you an idea. This is just, December, and I'm sure we'll have some, annual stuff coming in soon. So just to kind of give you some important dates to add to your calendar, of course, we're here today with the state UCC. Our next meeting coming up for the Underground Damage Prevention Review Board is Tuesday, the 17th. We look forward to getting back together. That will be the first meeting of the year for the quarter for that. Our LRPC, Dan's here with that. We'll be meeting January 18th. Here in the event center. That will be a hybrid meeting as well. So we look forward to having those folks on board for that. And then we have our NC 811 board meeting coming up on January the 20th. That annual meeting will be held here in Greensboro over at the Grandover Resort. So please, if you can, the Underground Review Board, it will meet here in this location too as well. The meetings are opened, as far as I know, to the public unless we have some sort of, you know, outbreak of some sort. But otherwise, they are open to the public, and we encourage you to participate with that.
Busy week next week.
I know, right? I might as well just get a hotel room up here. With that, just want to remind you folks that you can reach all of these different calendar events on the NC 811 calendar. There's also the NC UCC, where you can visit all of your local UCC calendar of events. We encourage you, please participate with your UCC. We do have a new liaison out west, and so he will be working with folks there, trying to drive those UCCs up as well as all the other liaisons across the state. And if you haven't downloaded your app, please do so. We encourage you to utilize all of the resources on your app. That's why we have those for you, to provide those tools in your toolbox. So with that, I will turn it back over to you, Chase, and thank you for allowing us to provide you information.
Absolutely, and thank you guys for hosting the meeting and letting us be here today.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right, moving on, North Carolina Locate Resolution Partnership.
Aside from what Ann just mentioned, you know, the meeting coming up here next week. So yeah, you know, all welcome to attend either here or virtually. So, yeah, please feel free to join us. But yeah, other than that, yeah, next week meeting. So come one, come all.
Thanks, man. Moving on to state regulators. I know Michelle was on earlier from the Utilities Commission. Michelle, are you still with us?
She said she had conflict, Jason may have to drop off
Yeah.
later in the.
That's what I was wondering. She had to go ahead and drop off.
She did.
Anything going on in the chat?
See anything?
Anyone from Masha? Anyone from the Department of Labor? Anyone with electric and power companies have an update?
I'll jump in for damages for the electric for the Duke stuff. Just kind of a comparison for North Carolina for December. So we're actually down a good bit from what we received from last year. Last year, same time, we had received 196 damages, give or take for the month. And now we're down to receiving 150 this month. So, an improvement, but,
And that's for December.
Yeah. Hopefully keep trending that way.
Any other updates from electric and power companies?
Any projects go from above ground to overground, underground coming up?
They are supposed to be getting me a new, I guess, file of kind of work that's coming up. I definitely, yes, definitely going to be, with all the work that's going on, substation optimization, the storm hardening stuff is going to be the same, if not more, from as last year. So
I have a question, since you work for Duke, and you may or may not be able to comment very much to this group, but I was just wondering in the wake of the two vandalism incidents, I'm sure Duke is taking measures to, how we say, improve security at remote location. Am I right to assume that, or anything you could share?
yeah, I don't know anything specific. I know they're looking at, increasing security at those substations and stuff, trying to figure out a way. Logistically, I know it's a challenge, obviously we can't station somebody at every substation, but they are looking at, ways to beef up, so to speak, security. So
I wonder if any progress on finding out who's responsible.
not that I'm aware of. I know the FBI and stuff is still looking into that. So, but
I think just the other day, Tammy had mentioned to me there was a billboard in Charlotte in reference to that. If you had any, details or anything in regards to that incident, to please report it. So,
I appreciate it.
and then that was in Mecklenburg County.
yeah,
So.
it was definitely a mess.
Mhm.
And I think kind of eye-opening too. I think for not just for Duke locally, but I think nationwide.
Absolutely.
Certainly, other electric utilities are now aware of something they probably never gave much thought to.
Yeah.
Was there anything from the municipal side?
So it's just really just us opening up, talking amongst each other about how can we better concentrate security efforts, especially with like our major regulator stations, our takeoff stations, that sort of thing. As well as on the electric side, protecting their substations as well. It's definitely something eye-opening, but it allows us to come together as different utility groups and talk about and have a chance to learn from each other on that aspect as well.
Dan, I got a question for you. Has there been a lot of backlash over the Robin power outage back Christmas time?
Yeah, I don't really know a whole lot about. I know they just had that meeting with Utilities Commission and all that. So I don't really know anything about that part, but.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate you sharing with us. Moving on to the CGA, is Lewis still on?
Yes, I am. So I guess the update I would give you here is there's a conference. Their conference is coming up April 17th through the 20th. That'll be in Orlando at the Caribe Royale. You can go to their website and get all the details about it. The unfortunate thing is it's stacked right up against our board meeting, which means that anybody going there is probably going to have to turn around and come back Wednesday or Thursday to go to the board meeting as well, which is what I have to do. But then, of course, and then NUCA, God bless you, Roger Richards and NUCA and everything. But the planning for that meeting always lands right after our board meeting. So we'll shuffle on down Myrtle Beach right after Chatola in that April board meeting. But the CGA conference We'll include the committee meetings on the front end of it. So if you're interested in going, of course, go to their website and check it out. If you've not participated in a CGA committee, they have a pretty good calendar of committee events. I encourage you to try to get in there, look and see if there's something there that you can contribute to or will learn from. And that's what I have for that.
Appreciate that.
Louis, do you have any information on the FOSA or fiber optic sensing association task group? That's being put together, but we haven't been put together quite yet. Didn't know if you had any more information on the goals of that group.
For the fiber optic task team, is that within the
Fiber optic
within the DIRT
sensing
group?
association task team, yeah.
I don't, George Kemp may know. Go ahead.
No, you barely,
Well, I was gonna say,
you don't have much.
Yeah,
But there is a bunch
George
of
Kemp. George Camp may know a little something because I think part of this was to understand more about damages to those facilities and why they always rank up so high. I know Andrea and George and Tammy and those folks from the NDTPC have generated some interest in that and trying to, I guess, break that down a little bit. I mean, one of the things with the CGA and these different task teams under DIRT, we're really trying to get a better handle on the why of a lot of these things. We can talk about damages. We can say they happen. We can say what kind of equipment is used. We can say what kind of work is taking place when they're happening. We can, guesstimate the root cause. Bear in mind that there could be some bias baked into that. But when we really try to get down to why is it the telecom, for example, is repetitively hit more than others and why is the work type there, I think that's what the task team is meant to get into. And I'm not sure who's chairing that. Do you know, Mark, who is chairing that task team?
My email came from Paul Dickinson.
I'll
And
check into it, Mark, and I'll get you an update on that for sure.
Yeah,
I haven't
don't
heard
know
much
who Paul
about
is.
it.
I responded that I would join the task team, so I was just curious if you knew.
Okay. I haven't heard a peep, but I'll follow up on it.
Okay.
While we're on the subject of CGA, our conference planning committee, we've kind of been talking with Louis about being able to have someone from the CGA that's involved in the CGA come and do a presentation or something like that and give us more information on the CGA. A lot of people in this room or people joining online may not actually know what the CGA is, and CGA is great. It comes out with the best practices every year, and so it'll allow you to learn something a little more about the CGA, and maybe if you want to get involved in that, that'd be awesome.
Do you know if Chris Ann is the one you're reaching out to on that to get a speaker?
I'm not 100%. You and I were going to come together once we had our speakers list together, and we were going to reach out to them, and also the gentleman from the Damage Prevention Institute as well, getting him to come.
Okay, he might be a good person to have speak as well. And I will mention that I'm scheduled to present, and my presentation includes the success story in Onslow of that gas install. I know, Ralph, you and I are going to talk. I know I sent you an email as well with some questions, to try to share that success story, along with the Segra story as well, about how they kind of rallied their contractors to improve the extra update situation. So, we like to bring our positive North Carolina stories out to the national front whenever we can. So something to look forward to.
Thank you, Louis. Appreciate that. Moving on to engineering and design. Does anyone have any updates?
I'll start. Okay. Bruce, I'm gonna let you talk about Atlas.
You are?
Yes, but
I don't want to talk about that.
I'm gonna let you do Atlas today. Something I'm noticing throughout the state DOTs, or the DOT, excuse me, and the 14 divisions, it's broken up in about 42 districts in a long time, 43, I think. Of course, the DOT did come out with a new manual that provides a lot of information about the encroachment utility process. Right now, DOT has I've heard between 1,200 to 1,500 people that can walk out the door today, full time. I've already seen a major increase in people leaving the experience and walk out the door. We're in the hundreds now of our encroachment submittals. We're doing a lot of utility engineering work. But what I'm seeing is the diversity between the districts have even gotten worse when it comes to reviewing encroachments. You're going to see this and you're going to experience. I've already had to elevate 3 encroachments that we submitted. They brought me in and I've had to elevate to the division engineer to override the district. Now, I have enough background that I can get by with that because I spent 30 years in DOT and 11 years as a state utility agent. So I wrote pretty much a lot of these policies. But you're going to see, and what I'm telling you is you might have to challenge that district due to the inexperience. And if they're not going by their own manual, you would have to elevate that to the division level. Don't let, it's not right. You're doing and due diligent in whatever process to submit plans and improvements. Don't hesitate to take it to the next level or call me. I'm being serious when I say that because this is only going to get worse. This is not going to get better. So I can see some serious challenges when it comes to the encroachment submittal process with your plan. So just want to throw that out. Bruce, if you could talk about Atlas, that'd be great.
Yeah, but I want to piggyback on this. So we have been meeting with some of the districts, some of the divisions. He's right, they're autonomous. They don't really work together too well. So we met with one of the divisions the end of last year, and Robert and I volunteered to go in and speak from our background at Collier's Engineering, as well as my broadband fiber background and his DOT background, about the encroachment permits, about trying to get everybody on the same page, simplifying things. If you can submit your encroachments correctly the first time to the DOT, everything's there that you need to put on there. When they review it and the 16.1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 is that all the verbiage is correct, they're going to start seeing that, whether you're doing it internally or you're using a firm, hey, this comes from this firm. They're usually pretty good. They may not scrutinize it as some would do for like the first permit you're submitting. So I do want to mention that. But Robert and I have volunteered to go in. The divisions meet quarterly, division engineers, assistant engineers. And I'm not sure if Byron or Larry attend those, but we offered to go in and talk to them because we are working for multiple clients and multiple infrastructure players across the state. So we think that'll help a lot because we are seeing this deficit of knowledge. They're overwhelmed. We're starting to see a lot of the broadband players using the blankets to do things. And there's some things happening there that they're not aware of. And even on the broadband side, people like me retired out. So you take an installer that's been there a year and now he's in charge of $5 million in construction. So these things are very good. On the county level, they're very good. If you can reach out to all the players in your county and get them to come in, have these conversations, we try and attend when we can, but the communication is very important. But I wanted to piggyback on that we do want to work with the divisions and try and get this where it flows good for everybody, which is good for us and our clients. On Project Atlas, we are starting to go around and talk to the UCCs. We're making an effort where right now, we'll probably have to talk about the West, but Robert's got the central part of the state. I've got the eastern part of the state. Whereas many of you already know what Atlas is, which is gathering all the infrastructure information as well as all the GIS data out there and put it in a massive database for the DOT, which the end result will be the road. It's geared towards road moves. So getting the road moves done in a timely manner with less impact for the taxpayers, and also communicating with all of you players, the DOT knowing where your facilities are prior to having a meeting about where the road's going to widen or the new bypass is going to go in, because you could have critical infrastructure there and they can identify it, save the state $20-30 million just by having a conversation. So we'll be coming around and I'm meeting with them and we'll work with the liaisons and let them know. I usually let Howard know.
And not just that, talking about saving the state, but also potentially saving the utility companies monies, because one of the things the DOT is focusing on is how to design a project and not move utilities. So that too, with Project Atlas, having that information during the planning phase of the project and during the design phase, if they have that information, there is a good opportunity. We're going to be designing to avoid utility relocation. When you move utilities, that's additional time restraints within the schedules.
Robert always so much better than
Thank you, sweetie.
Well, Robert, you were way out of line yesterday. Don't start today. That's it, Jay. I mean,
All right, so yeah, just to kind of give you all a little background on Colliers Engineering. We are a service and discipline engineering firm. So if you do have any issues or any needs, I'm in the land services department, which is basically right of way acquisition and other land services requirements and so forth. Please don't hesitate to give one of us a call here. We'll be happy to work with you.
And Tom's background's the UCC's, the 811s like Robert and I. So we have a lot of relationships. So sometimes you can call us up and say, hey, Bruce, is there somebody I could talk to at Division 2? I've got an issue here. And we may be able to talk about that and help you. We're always available to help on that.
Thank you guys so much for sharing. Any other engineering and designs? Moving on to equipment manufacturers.
I guess really for us, you know, due to facing extended lead times and whatnot, really for any project needs, equipment needs, you know, over the next 12 to 24 months, we really need to start having that conversation now.
What types of equipment are?
Directional drills, plows, trenchers, really any underground construction equipment needs.
This is still a long backlog then?
Yes.
How long did you say that backlog?
Depending on, you know, the equipment, that could be well up to a year. Yes.
You know, those are the same challenges in every other manufacturer. You know, all what. Yep.
Really, a lot of it's, you know, components, you know, just waiting on certain components to finish the machine.
Moving on to excavators and contractors. Any updates from excavators and contractors? Anyone with insurance have an update? Any locator or locate companies that have an update?
I do have a question or two. Again, I'm representing the private side. So I have a client that just acquired street light cable from Energy United, and they're very uneducated on the process of what it means to be a member of NC 811, what that is, what that entails, what's the yearly cost. Is there any information that I can give my client, whether they're required to be a member, what the cost of that would be, what they're looking at, and the process and what they're going to need? Is there any information that I can get from 811 that I can give that client?
Yes, you know, if they're going to become a member to list all of their facilities underground, there is a process that we begin with. It's a link on our website, and I'll be glad to provide that to you. That is both for members and associate members. We do start with a link off of our website. It goes to Leslie in Member Services, and she will then in turn send that information to that entity, and we'll begin that conversation from there. So it starts in our Member Services division.
Oh, or as a member, as a facility owner, like I said, basically this is a homeowners association that's acquired ownership. Are they required to be a member having a utility like street light cables? My guess is no, but we don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
Well, there are several HOAs. There are several HOAs that are members today of NC 811, and it just again, it goes down to their interpretation of it and whether they plan to support that with locating. So I mean, it's one thing to become a member. It's another thing to say, okay, well now somebody's got to receive tickets and respond to those tickets. So. As she said, I think member services is a great place to start as far as cost goes. Once someone becomes a member, until they've established a history with us, they pay that per transmission fee. And that's done until they've established a year's worth of tickets. But what we've discovered with a lot of the HOAs is what they don't recognize is it's not just becoming a member, then they have to have some process internally in place to address locating those facilities in there. So, but definitely member services is the place to start.
It gets pricey for an HOA. When you look at having to have somebody, not just the fees, but having to have somebody in the background that's gonna watch what you're doing.
Right, which is, honestly, this is why I'm kind of trying to walk them through the process, having been in the public utility side of things the last 30 years. I've got a lot of knowledge that I can give them. And they can make their decision informed versus coming in this blind and not knowing anything about the process. But I appreciate everybody's input.
We'll have a discussion offline.
Any other locators or locate companies that would like to provide an update?
Yeah, hey, good morning, everyone. This is Robert with USIC. I don't have anything enlightening or eye-opening. We got a lot of work out here, right? I think I heard somebody mention RDOF on the top of the call. We got RDOF, from ATMC to Spectrum to Brightspeed, and then of course we got other build outs from Metronet to Google to AT&T. So, a lot of those 6 or 7 projects are tying up, 30-45% of our resources. So just encourage everyone to who has those leveraging opportunities to make sure that the tickets are called in specifically. Avoid blanket requests both sides of the street, and just encourage everyone to communicate and work with those facility owners and the locate company that represent those facility owners to make sure that we locate the right area. We're still finding that on a lot of these projects that over 50% of where we put paint is nothing's actually happening. So we can certainly allocate those resources to the right jobs where people are digging. So again, those of us who are coordinating, Metronet and ATMC and Spectrum, thank you, including Brightspeed. But anyone else who has any pull or any opportunity when those conversations come up on your respective companies, we would encourage to make sure that the ticket info is very crucial on our side, especially as it relates to these long scope project tickets. So that's pretty much all I have.
Thank you, Rob. Any other locate companies before we move on? Anyone from gas companies or gas pipeline companies have an update?
For Dominion Energy, last year we had just a little bit over 1,000 damages. I would say that 300 of these were no ticket or ticket problem. 220 were operator fault, and about 400 were, make sure I got my 400 right, that is not 400, is 500 were excavator fault. We do need to work on our operator fault situation. We do have one excavator that damaged us 9 times last year, 8 times were on us. So it's something that we really need to be paying attention to and working on. I will say that this will give us our lowest damage ratio ever. Just fractionally lower than 2020, but this will give us our lowest damage ratio ever. So we're down to little bit over 1.4. I'll tell you, 10 years ago, we were closer to 4. So things are getting better from everybody, all the stakeholders, not just what we're doing.
Thank you, Mark.
Still not good enough to bonus though.
Somebody's working behind the scenes on that one, but no, no matter what we do, we're not gonna meet that one. They had dreams. We're talking about internal bonus and they had dreams in their mind when they said that.
Off you go.
Wait and see if anybody can go to people, but I'll go. All right. So, as I mentioned earlier, I work with Williams Gas Pipeline or, Transcontinental Gas Pipeline, which is a part of Williams. One thing I wanted to and I have mentioned this on a state meeting before last year, the last one that I attended virtually. And I believe it's the one that y'all had in Ashland. I think it was. I know I was on that one virtually. I couldn't make it in person that day. But I mentioned this, so the pipeline that, I work for, Transcontinental, runs from, the Gulf Coast of Texas to Manhattan and New York City. And so that's a lot of pipeline and it goes through a lot of states. And so our pipeline safety department said that, we have had a higher incidence of illegal encroachments in the state of Texas and North Carolina than any other states on our entire system. And so what they wanted us to do was to try a pilot program in Texas and North Carolina to try to reduce the number of instances where you may meet a contractor or an excavator for an encroachment to scope it out or whatever and reply to the ticket with the NC 60, agree to schedule at a later date or whatever. And then for whatever reason, an installer or somebody working for that company installing this utility is going to cross our pipeline might come out and install it on a not agreed to date or for whatever reason do it when we didn't have anybody there, which is very, very, very dangerous. And we're required to have someone on site anytime any excavation takes place on any of our right of ways. And so we thought that we would, our pipeline safety said, what can we do? And I mentioned this, like I said, at the virtual meeting in April. So what they decided for us to try is they came out with these 5-foot tall yellow flags, which yellow, of course, is the natural gas color in the utility industry. And they're bilingual. They're in English and Spanish. And so what we've started doing is whenever we meet a company or another utility or a contractor to scope out an encroachment that's coming up, we will place one of these flags right over the top of our pipeline in the middle of the proposed crossing to remind whomever comes out there, whether it's a different person with that company, maybe a third-party installer or whatever, that you don't just come out there and just start work with nobody there. We have this place right here is for myself or one of my coworkers to write their name and phone number on this right here. And it's just another reminder that, hey, there's something in the ground right here. And maybe I should call this person before I do anything. Can you read that? Yes, I'm sorry. It has my, I apologize. I was going to cover this. It has my company name at the top, Williams. It says warning, high pressure gas pipeline with a do not dig emblem on it. It says do not dig within 50 feet without a Williams representative present. For a local representative, please call, and here's where we can write our name and phone number. And so there are many different things that we use to mark our right of ways and our facilities. Of course, we use paint, we use pin flags. We can also use stakes with market flagging tape on them or whatever. I don't personally use whiskers or chalk because very often, but the pin flags are only so tall and they're only so big, so they're much easier to overlook. They can be run over and mashed down or something. But when you see this right here standing up, so high, and you can put this in the ground with just like a big screwdriver, just 4 or 5 inches down in the ground. It's still going to be standing up like this. It's hard to ignore this. And so our pipeline safety wanted our districts in Texas and North Carolina to do this and see if it reduced the number of unauthorized encroachments or crossings, because I don't like filling out dirt forms any more than the next person. But more importantly, I don't want to be associated in any way with somebody having a catastrophic accident over one of my facilities.
That's a creative target. I mean, that really is creative.
You'll also find something similar to that over Colonial. There'll be a yard sign over Colonial and what's now called Products Pipeline, which used to be Plantation Pipeline. They'll use yard signs and so forth. But please keep in mind that according to the Code of Federal Regulations 192 and 195, these pipeline companies are required to be on site during excavation, and it can be extremely dangerous if they're not there, especially on these transmission pipelines.
Yeah.
What manufactures that?
Pardon?
Do you know who manufactures that?
I do not. All I know is my pipeline safety department sent me a box of them. It's nothing. I mean, it's nothing on here that tells me that. I still got the box in my office. I might look on box cut.
You can get those. You can order something similar to that. If you call Vulcan signs and so forth, they manufacture.
It looks like Vulcan or Rhino or.
Yeah, something like that.
And this is pretty thick, durable material right now. So
You go back and get that and use it over there.
yes, you can clean it off and with something.
That fiberglass rod?
It is. It's fiberglass rod. And it's like about a 3/8 rod. So it's pretty sturdy.
Real question, who reads Spanish?
You beat me to it. I'll ask him to read the backside.
You can stab them like you can the other
I can
face.
read it in Spanish, but I have to take it one word at a time and translate like this. But anyway, I wanted to share that with you all, and I hope maybe some of your departments or companies or something might think something like this is useful and can reduce the number of damages, incidents, or whatever that happen, and more importantly, it might save a life someday.
We struggle with that on our transmission as well, and most of the time it's a draw or something like that, but they just go right. What do y'all do? Y'all pull those up there?
Well, no, we do not, and fortunately, the few that I've had over the years, most of them were drops. And I hate to call out specific company, but mostly phone drops. And so, no, we don't pull them out of the ground, but I will arrange to meet a representative from the company and or the third party installer out on site, and I'll watch them pull it out of the ground and reinstall it the way it's supposed to be with somebody on site. So anyway, it just, we have to fill out a concern report anytime something like that happens internally in my company. And of course, we have to do a dirt form. And when I categorize an unauthorized encroachment like that, for my company, it falls under line strikes. Even though it's a near miss, Tom knows what I'm talking about, it's still considered falls under the line strike category.
Yeah, it can be reported to the underground damage prevention committee,
It can,
and it could be, the results, it could result in a fine.
yes. Well, anyway,
Thank you, Chair.
yeah, thank you for your time, sure, I appreciate
What
that.
is Williams' lead time? For example, if we had a client that wanted installed utility, and they were crossing your right away or getting close to it, is 72 hours, is just so,
Well,
I don't want to have construction show up and then be like, well.
in North Carolina, it's, 72 hours for a routine ticket. And so I would prefer all tickets to be 72-hour notice, but unfortunately, you get those 48-hour tickets or rush, 24-hour tickets or whatever. But certainly the best way to handle prospective encroachment, in my opinion, would be to call in a survey design ticket way ahead of time, which is at least 10 days out, and allows all parties involved to meet and scope out the prospective work.
But you need to have from Williams, you got to have a representative during the dig.
Yes, anytime dirt is disturbed on my right of way, our right of way, we're required by federal DOT to have someone on site.
Chuck, I think that's the question is, once you're notified that, hey, we're gonna be digging in this area, usually what is the lead time on that to be to get an inspector?
Well, I would like, I'm the right of way lead for my district. Okay, and I certainly would love to have at least 48 hours notice, because as like a lot of other companies now, we are leaner and leaner, fewer and fewer people, and you have to be creative in scheduling to cover everything.
Yeah, so I do a lot of the pre-planning of construction, so that's good to know, so that I can kind of put that into the part schedule, like, you want to start construction this date, well, before we do that, we got to call, say, Williams, give them at least a week to get their schedule, get personnel out there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, I use the term, I live and die by those 811 tickets. And, so that's, of course, how we know anything's going to take place anywhere near our facilities. I will say though, depending on the encroachment, as far as our pipelines are concerned, there may be a lot of lead time if our engineering people have to get involved. And so that's why I say months ahead, a survey design ticket would be good for a major encroachment. Anything that would go under our facilities, or even another major utility crossing above our facilities if possible. And so, and I'll mention like, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but Robert, okay. You mentioned talking about trying to minimize the impact to facility utilities and having to relocate them for DOT projects. That rarely happens with our pipeline, rarely. However, last year it did happen on our Cardinal pipeline for the new I-40 maybe.
Yeah, that's design build, and of course, they're gonna try to get as creative as possible. Because again, they say design build, time is money to them. So they are 24 hours around the clock.
Well, I'll tell you this, Robert, a few years ago, they made some DOT, and I'm sorry, Chase, for taking so much time. You're good. A few years ago, DOT, I do know in the Raleigh Triangle area, did some major road improvements or expansions on US 1. And may have been before you retired, I don't even know, but the Cardinal pipeline, which is a lateral pipeline of ours that runs from my station near Reesville all the way to Clayton, it crosses US 1. And when some of our representatives went to one of the first meetings with DOT and other parties in the planning design phase of this, DOT kind of was sort of had a dismissive attitude until they found out that if they wanted to relocate that pipeline without changing the design of the roadway improvements or additions, it cost the state about $10 million. And they backed up and punted on that one. But on this 540 project, last year, they did pay to relocate the Cardinal Pipeline, a certain distance there to make it. And they had to work with Duke as well on power transmission, to bring that interstate through there. And maybe another one coming.
Yeah, and I'm not trying, but real quick, the governor, they're looking at accelerating project delivery, and part of that is utilities. That's why they put in Project Atlas, because they don't want to move utilities.
West.
But yeah, if you run into that, I'd really like to know that again, because that's something that should be elevated all the way to the chief engineer of the DOT. Those are things they need to know about.
It was a major undertaking to relocate that, to relocate that pipeline because there's no redundancy in it. And we had to do a four-stop bypass and everything. I mean, it was made to keep them cutting the customers off. I mean, it was really big. So it would save the taxpayers of North Carolina a lot of money if they didn't have to relocate our pipeline.
Absolutely.
All right, well, I thank you for your time. Absolutely.
Do you know if Williams is doing any sort of educational campaign on those flags that we might could share your information?
Actually not, that I'm aware of, and, that, I apologize, but that reminded me of something that you mentioned, educational. I wanted to just take one quick minute and mention, I know I mentioned this before. We are not, however, Williams does send, our pipeline safety sends out materials to affected public all along our facilities all the time. And they have certain mailings that go out every year. I know you're well aware of it. And then we also send other materials and notifications to property owners, et cetera, whenever it's appropriate. But you mentioned education. I also want to throw this out there too. I mentioned this before, but last year I was able to complete some presentations that we had begun in 2020 to all of the emergency responders and 911 centers in all the counties that my district or that my area of responsibility is in. We made presentations to them about pipeline safety and pipeline, natural gas pipeline operations to strengthen the communication we have between all those emergency responders, because it can be critical sometimes in the unlikely event of an emergency in minimizing damages and maybe even saving a life if we are sort of on the same page and have good lines of communications when something does happen. So we started in January of 2020, and then COVID hit. We made a few presentations through February, and then it stopped. But I was able to resume them last year, and we completed all of them in my areas last year in Forsyth, Guilford, Rockingham, and Alamance County, and all the fire departments and 911 centers. So I was thankful for that, and I think it'll reap benefits moving forward.
Appreciate that. Anyone from oil and oil pipeline companies? Anyone with private water that would like to provide an update? Any public works or municipalities that would like to provide an update? Anyone with the railroads? One day we're gonna have somebody. We got.
Hey,
One day we'll walk.
of course, I don't work for the railroad. My dad did for 33 years, but I will mention this, just a local note about about Norfolk Southern. Some of you are aware, probably have heard about the old Miller Brewery in Eden, North Carolina, in Rockingham County. It was purchased by Ralston Purina, and they're retrofitting it for a pet food plant, manufacturing plant. Well, after Michael came through here in the fall of 2018 and dumped all the 15, 16 inches of rain and washed a lot of stuff out, Norfolk Southern abandoned their line from Danville up to Eden. Yeah, and the last thing that moved on that line was hauling out train loads of coal ash from the Duke plant in Eden, the power generation plant. Anyway, so once Ralston Purina purchased that facility and started renovating it, last year, Norfolk Southern completely restored the line from Danville, Virginia up to Eden.
For the slurry.
Well, it's the same line, Tom. They just made the repairs that they had that Hurricane Michael caused.
Gotcha.
And they hadn't run a train on it since then, but once that Purina bought that plant,
Yeah.
they came in and hit it hard for a month and restored that whole spur.
Did they have to cross you to do that?
Yes. Well, it was already across us, but they didn't have to do anything where it had crossed us.
Oh, yeah.
There were a lot of them.
Fortunate they didn't have to do anything. I know how difficult it is to work with the railroad.
Oh, yeah. Anyway,
I actually was in Virginia at one of my meeting and CSX was there and did a presentation. I could see if they'll come up and talk.
That'd be cool to line up for the Raleigh meeting in March, if we could.
Get them to the conference.
Or to the conference.
They've done the conference.
well, I'll also say this about I'm not that familiar with CSX. My daddy worked for Norfolk Southern, but I will say the main dispatcher's office for this area for Norfolk Southern's in Greensboro. Like we could get somebody to come to a meeting here once in a while.
Mm-hmm. Appreciate that information, for sure. Moving on, cable TV and telecommunication companies, anyone with those that would like to provide an update?
So I'm George with Metronet, and in the cities that we're currently in, where you guys are located, we're continuing this year in every one of those cities and in the surrounding areas. They haven't given me a list of all the expanding areas that we're going to be expanding to in North Carolina, but it's massive. North Carolina is our largest state for expansion this year. So as soon as I get that list, hopefully by the time we get to the next UCC, I can bring it and share with you guys where new cities are.
Thank you.
Will this be more or less mainline work or will this be dropped?
Okay, so difference between, it's all distribution, you know, so we're building out our whole infrastructure in the entire cities.
Right.
And then behind us comes in all the drops. So after you see our big construction crews come through, you'll see the drops come through.
Any other cable TV and telecommunication companies? Come on, Don.
Come on, Don, give us some.
Yeah, we got a lot of business as usual and quite a bit of RDOF going in the state of North Carolina. They're sending that, I guess, awarding more grants coming up shortly. They just have done some others here in the state of North Carolina.
Thank you.
So I have one question, Don, in regards to, at some of the local UCC meetings, you know, just like Metronet, there's a ton of, you know, subs working, you know, on these projects. And do you have a list of within Spectrum, I guess, who your contacts are that would deal in different areas, just so that we can pass that information along? Should we get that question?
Yes, I can get you something for that. I don't have it with me now, but I can get you something, whatever, who controls what area. I think we are pushing, trying to get our people more involved in 811,
Yeah.
as well as the contract too.
Yeah, that'd be great if we can get some folks to some of the UCCs, because we are certainly getting questions in regards to some of the contractors and some issues.
Moving on to emergency services, anyone have an update?
Hey guys, this is Matt with Lumen. Just to go back to the telecommunication company, so just give everyone a heads up. We're doing a couple overbuilds on our long haul routes. We're going to be pulling through new fiber from Atlanta through to DC on our level 3 long haul route, and that's going to go all through the state of North Carolina. And a lot of those handholds and access points are all buried for that, and we'll be setting through new handholds and uncovering the handholds that are buried. We'll also be doing a overbuild on one of our other routes that runs parallel with the tracks all through North Carolina as well. So we'll be calling in a lot of tickets for all that. I think we've started down in Charlotte around December last year. We started doing the overbuild and the level 3 long haul.
Appreciate that. Moving on to local UCCs, I'm going with the local UCC, like to provide an update at this time.
I'm Chair for Davidson County. We're just a lot of expansion residential areas and some private stuff. Pretty much everything normal.
And we do have a meeting tomorrow, 11:30 at Lexington.
Electric buildings.
The electric building. Okay, so Davidson UCC tomorrow at the electric division of Lexington Utilities.
Foothill's going on right now, isn't it?
It is.
How do we get that changed?
They changed it
They
from the
did.
first Tuesday to the second Tuesday of this month.
I would love to get that moved, but
His location.
It's usually the first Tuesday of the month, but I think they were afraid of.
Yeah, they moved it. Just
one time.
just a one time.
Okay.
Yes, just a one time move.
Make sure. That's kind of-
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Scott's goal is to potentially, move it around, but I think you guys are going back to Dominion next month there in Gastonia, maybe.
It means a difficult location because we have to get everybody checked in.
Yeah, maybe.
That's the only issue with that. Maybe we can get some sort of sign in. Who's your liaison for the Davidson?
Tammy.
It is Tammy, but I will actually be there tomorrow in her place.
Well, Parrish is also having the Rockingham County meeting tomorrow
He
at 10.
will, yes,
At
the
10.
Rockingham County,
Yeah, that's it. Right near me.
yes.
And you mentioned getting more folks, more of the contract projects involved in the local UCC. I was gonna say, like, if you are a part of the local UCC, when new folks show us how you build it, don't attack them.
Right,
Like,
absolutely.
We're trying to network here and just kind of foster that kind of environment where they're welcome, and offer food, it helps. They'll come.
That brings a good point, Jason. That's why we go around the room and we ask who you're from. That's always most important when introducing your name is what company you're with. Because that provides you an opportunity, not during, but after the meeting, to be able to get with someone, get their contact information, handle those circumstances that comes up after the fact. During the meeting is not the time to be able to attack someone, like Jason said. That does nothing but drive people away. It's hard enough to get somebody to come to local and state UCCs as it is. And so we would like to keep our friendly faces and provide the contact for you to be able to handle any disgruntlements that you have on an after the fact basis.
Also, just one thing is those of us that attend the UCC meetings, we also network with all the contractors and the excavators and everybody else that don't attend those UCC meetings to kind of give them the information that we've been privy to, and networking beyond just the meeting itself.
Absolutely.
We have, this topic has come up several times in past years, and Jason, your point all too, about that. I think the most critical sector of utility coordinating is probably going to be your excavators and installers, contractors. And they are the most difficult representatives to get to one of these UCC meetings because, as you all know, for most of them, time is money.
Mm-hmm.
And not many of them can let somebody take 2 or 3 hours out of the day to come to one of these. Maybe they can squeeze it. I have seen a few at local UCC meetings where they can spare an hour, maybe not 2.5, 3 hours. And we need, those are the people that all utility operators really need to reach and communicate.
And I'll go ahead and throw a plug in there. I've been a part of meetings where, and I'll throw USIC out there. USIC has belligerently been beat down during meetings due to locate lead times and things like that. And number one, it's not fair because most of the time your people that are coming from USIC are taking time away from being able to do that, to be able to come. And really, on our end, the people calling in the tickets, if we provided clear and concise locate ticket instructions, that would really cut down on the lead time a lot. You know, whenever you're just doing a simple crossing that's only 50 feet, you shouldn't put locate 500 feet.
Yeah.
You know,
Both sides of the road and in the road.
Both sides of the road and in the road. Make sure you're providing the clear and accurate and concise locating instructions. And that allows USIC or any locator for that aspect to be able to get your work done for you and then go to the next one.
Same thing, and if you'll call the ticket in, they actually do the work.
Absolutely.
Instead of dragging it on.
Absolutely.
It's a hamster wheel. It's not, it's easy to blame the locators, you know, but the folks calling in the ticket.
Just as a point to push out there that to offer relief, there are companies like my company, and I'm not the only one, that are offering contract support to some of these locating companies to help North Carolina seen an increased amount of work that's been going on over the last 4 or 5 years. And staffing issues have become a real thing where locating companies can't keep good help for various reasons. Other smaller companies like my company and several others that I've networked with are often some of that contract support that'll help out those locators. I've got, some contacts that are telling me that, some of these bigger companies are, and we've done this several years. I started doing this back in '98, where we would go to different locations and helping out the major contract locating companies simply because they were overloaded. And I haven't seen over the last 10, 12 years where it's actually gotten slower. So it's only going to get busier as we go along.
Roger Richards. Roger.
Hey, Ann, I'm sorry. I was trying to unmute it. I was actually sending a message because I got to get off here for 12 o'clock. But one of the issues in Mecklenburg that we're having, I've had some contractors reach out to me, is as far as the locates and everything go, they're recognizing a facility out there doing 3-hour tickets, and the 3 hours is going by with no locators showing up. So if we could, work on that, again, like one of the guys in there was talking about at the UCCs, that's where all your connections are made and everything like that. Not just contractors being there, but in Mecklenburg, we're seeing to where we're only getting maybe one locate company at those meetings. If we could have more representation from the locator side also. I do agree we do need more contractors there, but like the guy from Williams was saying, that's what a lot of contractors are going to say is time is money, and to pull somebody out of the field for that. I do get a lot of phone calls throughout, every month from different contractors, and I do try to pass that along and be a voice for them. For anyone that wants to know, the Mecklenburg UCC meetings is the last Wednesday of every month. We have been fortunate enough to keep them at Piedmont Natural Gas there on Yancey Road, and we appreciate them hosting them every month for us. But other than that, that's about all I have right now from Mecklenburg.
Appreciate that, Ralph.
I'll chime in, Chase. Jones Honslow, we are getting ready to get started back up next week for a new year. We take November, December off each year. Ticket volume is still up. We're trying to push tailgate meetings. That is the easiest way for everybody to be on the same page. What he was talking about, what you're talking about, I get phone calls all the time about this contractor is calling about this locator, they don't do it, and then the locator, they're not doing what they're supposed to do. And I always ask, did you call? No, I'm not talking to them. Well, there's where the problem is. Okay, communication, if you got good communication, you won't have any problems. Lewis was talking about a project and he's gonna talk to the Common Ground Alliance on. And that was 110,000 feet of 8-inch pipe with 0 markable strikes. And that wasn't just the company that put it in, that was the locators, the company, and they talked every day. Most of the time, Saturday and Sunday, they were talking back and forth. When we have a new contractor come into town, I have Metronet back here, okay? We're gonna have a tailgate with them, introduce ourselves as locators, all the locators get together, okay? Network, communicate, things work a whole lot smoother. So, but as I said, we meet the third Thursday of every month. Y'all are on this side of the country, I'm on the other side, but come on down, you wanna go fishing or something.
Union County there, we've got a lot of fiber jobs going on right now and a new transmission gas line we're putting in. We meet on the first Wednesday of every month. And, usually at our office at 5607 Cannon Drive and Indian Trail. So 9 o'clock in the morning, when it won't come.
Two fiber guys that are coming in are
Open
from
fiber.
South Africa. Doing a tremendous, I talked to a gentleman the other day who wanted to ship a piece of equipment here to Union County. And it was gonna cost him quite a bit of money to ship that piece of equipment. They wanted to do micro trenching. So there's also a big water sewer project for Union County. Just know that because we met last week. All right, somebody that can explain it better than me.
There's different variations of it. Some of it you don't want to see. So you can ask Google on many of their projects where they've done it and they've actually abandoned the whole city because all their infrastructure got tore up. What it is it's basically going down the road, making a slit very, very narrow so you can just slide your cable down into that slit and then cover it back up. Sometimes it'll only go just a few inches deep. And then when you go through and you do a road, reconstruction of some type, it's torn up. Now we do a micro trench only when it's necessary in downtown area. And we will go extremely deep, at least 2, 3, 4 feet deep if we have to, depending on what the other infrastructure is that's there. And we make sure we put in conduit and we make sure we go wide enough and we do all of the required backfill as well for it after we get done. But there's also another thing called nano trenching, which is even worse yet, where it's a lot thinner and it's just putting the cable itself and it's no conduit at all. And it's almost at the surface level. So you don't ever want to see nano trenching. Micro trenching, if it's done right, it's good in the downtown area, but that's the only place where it really should be done is where you can't use other methods to get in the ground.
Much like the NCDOT's gonna tell you, I don't think so.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
They supported it to start with. They did. I was there when I was in place. We were all up there. That was the Google job in Raleigh. Yeah. We were there.
Then we had that presented at our conference one year. It seemed like a really great.
Dan and I went out and looked at some, I think, was it ITS that was doing that? Yeah. And it was a very clean process, but once again, when someone comes back through there and changes the profile.
Right.
Yeah.
So our next meeting will be March 14th, 2023, 10 a.m. at Dominion Energy located at 4211 Global Street in Raleigh. We're looking forward to that meeting, and that will be our last meeting before the conference. We're expecting to have a lot of conference updates to be able to give you guys for that. So, see what?
Yes, that's what it sounds like. He's describing.
Oh, and I'm so sorry. The people that walked in after our meeting started, can you introduce yourselves and give us an idea of where you're from and everything?
We're gonna get away, didn't
No, I'm Rob Ryan, I'm with RDL Utility Located. This is our age resident. Lead contract located for the Shaw Department of Transportation. Also do, hydro excavation. We wanted to come because we did have some concerns about how tickets get called in and things like that. You touched on that, that's very important. It seems like the biggest problems we have are the people that are in their own tickets. Let's face it, locators are not brain surgeons.
That's right.
It's hard enough to find people to come to work. When you do find them and you get them trained, it's hard to make them understand area of conflict, which is key to locators. If we can find out a way to simplify how these tickets get called in, we can narrow down the guesswork that locators have to go through on area of conflict, where they have to locate and things like that. That's our biggest concern. Other than that, we're just happy to be here.
Absolutely. Thank y'all for coming.
Locate resolution.
Next week.
Yep.
18th.
Next week.
Next week.
18th.
Yeah. Yeah, make sure we get.
Did the wonderful Ms. Flowers have anything for us if she's back?
I don't think she is back.
Came in Wednesday.
If you guys would, if you don't mind, we have a sign-in sheet up here, if y'all would just please. Okay, perfect. Good deal. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Just one additional thought for you guys. Any of you, the UCCs, if you're trying to get the small contractors there, if it would help for you to actually have your meetings around a mealtime, like a lunchtime, where you know they got to take a break, and you can encourage it and say, hey, guys, I know you got to take a break anyways. We're going to feed you. If you're in any of the one of the areas where we're doing construction, come see me if you want to sponsor for your meals. I mean, I'll do my share. I'm not going to sponsor all of them. But we will,
That's the only reason some of us show.
we will do a lot of these meals for these UCCs. Some of you guys can actually speak up to this. We sponsored a lot of them, and we will continue to do so this year.
That's awesome. And if you're interested, again, there's gonna be, I'll throw a plug back in for our vendors for our conference. There's gonna be plenty of sponsorship opportunities in that conference as well, for meals, entertainment. We're actually working with Lindsay on getting some really great entertainment for our Thursday night meal. Something we've probably never been able to offer but one time before. Bruce, did you say you were stripping for the entertainment? We don't want that.
He's not gonna make a lot of money anyway, so.
I was.